We're live.
Yeah, so there we go live. So, hi everyone, I welcome you all to Meshery's weekly development meeting that happens every Wednesday. And so, on this call, we talk about all the contributions related to Meshery, its future roadmap, and all the items that we have on the repository. So, just for the context, Meshery is one of the projects that Layer 5 community stewards and is also ninth fastest growing CNCF project, and it's a cloud native manager. So, it lets you collaboratively design, deploy, and manage your cloud native infrastructure. And beyond that, it does a lot of heavy duty things for you. So if you want to read more about it, you will find all the links in the in this docs itself. So I'll once again take this link and we'll put in chat so that you have access to the docs, and also you can write your name in the attendees list so as to mark your attendance. And if you have any PRs or issues that you need help or just want to get some feedback, you can drop them in the topics. All right, so before we get started discussing this agenda items, let's follow a Layer 5 tradition, and that is, if you are joining this call for the very first time, you can unmute yourself and give your quick intro. So I'll be taking a look at the participants list to see if we have any newcomers on the call. So Harshit, is it the first time that you're joining this call? Harshit Paneri?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Hi, welcome to the call. Do you mind giving your intro?
Sure. So hello everyone, myself Harshit Pareri. I have a 1.5 year of experience in the tech. Right now I am a DevOps engineer and I am from the India. And I also know the tech, some tech stack, like I work on the Docker, Kubernetes, GK, EKS, and I've set up the Flux-CD pipelines. I know Jenkins pipeline setups, YAML configurations, and everything.
So definitely we'll get you some tasks to get started with. Thanks for your intro, Harshit.
Thank you, Vivek.
Looks like Nishi is also joining us for the very first time. So do you mind giving your intro? And just in case if you have any audio or mic issues, you can give your intro in the chat as well. So Nishi, like if you're all set, you can go next and give your intro to the community members. All right, let's look for any next newcomer. And I don't think we have any more newcomer on the call, but if I left someone, make sure you give your intro in the chat. So with that said, let's now get started with topics. So there is this first celebration, and it's also a kind of announcement, and that is for Hacktoberfest participation. So as you all are aware, Hacktoberfest is going on, and many of the repositories are participating in Hacktoberfest. We have many issues open for newcomers, which is help wanted and very straightforward items. So we have a couple of contributors who received exclusive Hacktoberfest badge from Layer 5. Now we'll be taking a look at them and we'll be celebrating their achievement. So I'll be just quickly do this slideshow. And these are the individuals who had PRs up on one or many of our repositories, and they were also successfully merged. So congratulations to all of them on the in this screen. And if you also want to become part of this fest, you can. I think I'll need to reshare my screen in order to skip the slideshow. Yeah, so I was talking about this event that we had. So just in case you're wondering how you can participate in Layer 5 and also Hacktoberfest. So there's this link that I'm putting in chat that you can explore and find out all the resources, also issues open, and various assets that will help you while you are exploring the issues to work on. So you will find the link in chat. And with that, we'll have our first item from Matthew, who is also a Meshery CLI maintainer. So I'll be taking a look if we have Matthew on call. Looks like we're missing them. So I'll be reminding Matthew and we'll circle back to his item. Next up, we have this item from Aryendra. So I'll be taking a look if we have, looks like we're also missing them on the call.
Oh, no. Hey, actually, maybe we could talk about these two items and we can talk about these gentlemen in their absence, and maybe they'll catch the recording, or But I suspect this first one might be helpful for some of us who might spend some time on Meshery CTL. If I recall this particular pull request. So in Meshery as a project, we have different types of tests that are run. And we have this many compared to how many we should have. And in Meshery CTL specifically, at one point, it had, well, maybe upwards of 50% of its code covered by unit tests. Some of those unit tests are like worthless. They're worthless. They're sort of written weird. I'm not sure what was the intention was or what was to be accomplished. And that's what Matthew is, I think, trying to reconcile here is in Meshery CTL, there are some tests that will verify the presence of a file inside of a file that is inside of the Meshery repo. And that's basically the whole test. Is like the test expects that there's a file like the Go releaser file, for example, in the root of the repository. And I have no idea what the value of that test is. Like it asserts that there's a file here and it checks for it. And if it's not, then a Meshery CTL test fails based on that. And that just probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So what Matthew is fixing is this helpers test, helpers underscore test.go. I'm having a hard time figuring out, trying to think of why it is that we need a test to verify a Meshery CTL test, a unit test that would normally like check for the handling of invalid input or things like that. Why it matters if we check for a file. This is one example of many unit tests that are written in this way. I suspect one of the contributors' contributions to unit tests maybe slipped by one of the maintainers, and we just allowed this kind of a thing to merge. It's like, I don't. So if Matthew were here or if he watches this later, I think that this is a waste of everyone's time. That's my perspective. I could be wrong. So I would encourage us to delete these types of tests. But if somebody else knows why we might want to keep them, please speak up. So while you guys think about that, so please chime in, or maybe it's something you're not sure of, but you'd like to think about and investigate, raise your hand or what have you. While we think about that, in the past, we've had well, any number of GitHub apps that will run during the moment of a pull request being created. One of those is CodeCov, a popular test automation framework. And so CodeCov would help report on, well, oddly enough, code coverage is what it would report on. So that 50% that I was saying that we had code coverage for in terms of unit tests across all the files and all the inside of Meshery CTL, that's where I'm getting that statistic. I don't think that we actively run CodeCov now, but just more food for thought. So I don't know, I suspect that someone was set to a goal of trying to achieve a certain percentage of code coverage. And since CodeCov in part measures test coverage by way of whether or not all 232 Meshery CTL files have a test against them, maybe they were sort of gaming the system and gaming the stats by including different files in those tests. I don't know.
Thank you, Lee. So let's see if we have some thoughts or suggestions from contributors. So we'll wait for 5 to 10 seconds.
On the next item, it was from a relatively new contributor, I think. This contributor is looking at one of the workflows that runs, and actually, Vivek, maybe you want to speak to the purpose of this. And, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this flow originally was there to celebrate all the new. So anyone who is coming to this repository and having their first ever PR, so this flow will basically comment there, welcoming them. So this condition that is there, like it doesn't work. And so in past, we had something like this. It was taken as inspiration from some other GitHub, org that follows it. So to my understanding, this is correct. I mean, since this doesn't work, for us to recognize whether or not the new member is, first time contributor, we can have this condition. And then also in past, when we supplied GH access token Lee, the flow when it ran, it warned that we are not passing GitHub token. So that too, like we have to pass it this way only. And then so finally, when we had like, these changes there, when we tried to run the flow, when new contributor came in and made their first PR, there were some permissions issue, and that has to be fixed. But apart from that, I think this is the original version of what I had before we reverted those changes. I also had this in one of my own org, and there like it worked like a charm. So any thoughts?
Yeah. So currently, when someone opens up their first issue, or they open up or they maybe
PR.
have their first pull request merged, in both cases, we will recognize them with a special message. What's different then about this is what's different?
Yeah, so it has our customized message. So it has some messages, and also like we are having this across multiple repository, and on Meshery, like we have Meshery's photo and also the contributor. We are also showing our mascot. So, and that's not possible with the way we have that custom commenting through GitHub.
Oh, okay. This would replace the other mechanism and improve it.
That by default, the comment that comes by default through GitHub, we can disable that from editing template, and we just can run this.
Nice. Looks like we're doing community management through engineering, which is great.
Thanks, Lee. I'll also take the preview of the message that is commented by the flow later, and will be sharing in chat. So if anyone wants to take a look at the message, they can. So thank you, Aryendra. We'll be following up on this PR. And by the way, I'll also be dropping this link in chat. And thank you, Jarens. Like I'll be asking for your review as well. So moving on to the next item, we have some UI issue PRs from Ahmed. I'll be taking a look if we have them on call. Looks like we are missing Ahmed. So Anita, reminding Ahmed if he joins, then we'll be able to cover these items. Thanks. Next item is from Divyans, and let's take a look if we have, looks like we are also missing them. And I think Pratik is here on the call with us. So Pratik, do you mind going next and talking about your update?
Yeah, hello. So I was working on the pop-up component that shows when we log in for the first time in Messery Playground. So basically, I was working. Can I share my screen?
Do you mind? Yeah, please go ahead. So you can share your screen. And
Okay. So these are my local changes. This one is the I've made these changes tokens for the system from the system library, so that's why it is showing like this. Otherwise, nothing is breaking, and all the tests are also passing. Uh, I guess it's fine if I just add the correct tokens. So Ankita may help me with that.
Sure. I did add a couple of places where you have to add system tokens. If you want the exact token codes where you could find them, I'll add a link
Okay.
where you could refer to and you can add those tokens. And we should be good with that PR.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik. So I wonder if anyone else has any feedback for you. So we'll wait for 5 seconds. Do you have any other updates too, Pratik, or is it just this one?
No, that's all from me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratik, for your updates. Next up, Ayush has sent word that he will not be able to join. So we'll go on to the next item, and that is from Anuj.
Yeah. Hey everyone, let me share my screen. So the issue that I was assigned was to migrate the error boundary component to functional based from class based. And this is my PR. And these are the changes that I've done. I've tested the code and there wasn't any error I found um, while testing the error boundary component. Um,
And like, did you reuse the system package? Like, there's an error boundary component already inside the system package. Did you replace it? Yeah.
yes, so the Anshu already told me. So
I think that might be also like already a fallback component defined if you check. Otherwise, it's good. Like, there might be already one defined
um, actually
that we use.
this was suggested to me by uh, INR Whitney to do the changes like this. So I did.
No, like this is good. Like I'm saying, like there is already probably a reusable fallback component that we use for other error boundaries. So you might use directly that.
Uh, I will look into it.
So thank you, Anuj. You also can go through whatever feedback was given through the live recorded stream of this call. So you will find that on our YouTube channel, and link to that will be in this talks. I'll be also dropping that in chat just in case.
Okay.
Thank you for your updates. Next up, we have this update from Vaibhav, and I'm sure Vaibhav is also on the call.
Yes, hello. So I was working on these components. Let me share my screen really quickly. Okay. Here I simply used from MUI material to system. I use system library and system wrapper. I imported the use theme token and removed the hardcode styling and wrapped the component around the system wrapper for both the components. This is for database, and this is my another PR for custom avatar and error boundary. Similar things I had done for it too. And slowly
Vaibhav.
move through the code. If anyone have any review for it.
So Yash, like, do you have? I see one comment from you. So do you mind sharing that through audio?
Yeah, so I was just saying that, like, I guess if I remember correctly, we were previously discussing like we will eradicate the use assistant. So I'm not sure if you move further with that. So I just made a comment. Are we still using use assistant with each component?
It's still like we're not completely migrated, so yeah, it would be needed right now.
So like I have to remove use assistant.
I'm not getting like you are also migrating the error boundary, and Anuj was also the error boundary in
No,
system can be
I
directly
am.
used.
He's migrating from. He's migrating functional component. I am migrating MUI 4 to MUI 5 using Systent.
Yeah, I'm saying like the error boundary in Systent is like already styled and everything, so you can directly replace this one with the one that's from Systent, so you don't need to like again style it here. So you can directly import from Systent and use it
Okay.
in places this one was used. It already has the fallback and other stuff defined.
Okay, I'll look into it. Okay.
Thank you, Vaibhav. So we'll move on to the next item, and that is from Pranjal. So Pranjal, do you mind sharing your update next?
Yes, I'm gonna just share my screen. I hope my screen's visible. So I had to raise a PR on writing unit and integration test for Meshery CTL environment create command. In this PR, this, yes, so I have I've followed the Meshery CTL documentation. I have created the fixture directory um, for the responses of the API, and then I've created the test data directory for mimicking the response from the Meshery CTL command line. Here I've created three tests, one for when we are missing one of the three flags. Second is for successful execution. And then the third was when we are providing an invalid org ID, it's not a valid UUID. Then what happens is the environment gets created with 000 UUID, and it again gives us a successful completion. So these are the three tests. Any feedback?
Right, and these tests only return or are only invoked. None of this is user facing, right? This is just contributor facing.
Um, what do you mean by contributor facing?
Contributors will see the output of these tests, not users, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good. And so, yeah,
Okay.
there's three of them. One of them is testing to see if we can create an environment successfully. In order to create an environment, you need to provide an organizational ID, like, to provide an identifier for what org you would like to provide or create that environment within. We've had a longstanding issue around Meshery's APIs not being or being case sensitive. And that just is a recipe for bugs and frustration. So, Pranjal, you might have hit this with org capital I lowercase d. Is that right?
Yes. I think last time I talked with Shlok, he said that the flags are not sensitive to whether they are capital or not.
The flags in Meshery CTL, that makes sense, but the parameters in Meshery's API, Meshery's REST API, that might be a different story.
Okay.
It'd be good to, actually, since you're focused on this subject, it'd be good to follow up and ensure that that is the case. That we're eliminating case sensitivity, or that like we're lowercasing everything throughout the API calls.
Okay, I'll do check.
Nice. Great. So of the three tests, a missing name flag, invalid. Okay. Are there any other tests that you think that would be worth spending time on? Any other scenarios?
Currently, no. In fact, the invalid org ID was also, I think, suggested by Matthew, which we added.
Nice. Yeah. Or maybe it's a valid org ID, but not an org that the user belongs to.
I'm sorry, I
Or-
didn't understand you.
Or maybe it's an environment name that's about 5,000 characters long. or an org name that has a -1, or an org name of white space, or an org name of like just an empty string. I don't know. There's unit tests go through all the silly use cases, and there's the unit tests in some respects are an attempt to catch those edge cases where people do what you're not expecting. So one of the things that you might not expect someone to do is, if a user belongs to more than one organization, then we should probably make sure that they're able to create environments in each of those different organizations. I don't know if that's an appropriate test for a unit test or not, but an appropriate test for unit test is probably, or maybe it's a functional test, I don't know, but it's probably someone trying to create someone trying to create an environment in an organization under which they are not a member. Does that one make sense?
Yes. I didn't know that we had to be a member of the org for creating the environment.
Yeah.
I'll look into it now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, even more than that, now these are tests for the local providers, so like Meshery server native capabilities. For remote providers, different remote providers, like the Meshery cloud or the layer 5 cloud one that people might sign into, it is capable of bringing different permissions to bear. So it might say, well, yeah, this user is a member of this organization, so they might be able to create an environment, although actually, no, not this user, because they're not permissioned to create environments. They are permissioned to create designs or something else. And anyway, I'm super overcomplicating what you're presenting. That last thing I just said about permissions and stuff is like, maybe come back and watch this video a couple of months from now as you're still around, and there might be a place maybe we should talk about that again much later. But because ideally the unit tests, we would have a framework for facilitating tests of different providers. There's a whole series we should have on what a provider is and how to tell what the capabilities of a provider are, and how some of the different extensions work in Meshery. And Meshery is a very extensible platform. Like, it has a variety of different types of extensions. We talk about extension points. These extension points have different shapes to them, just like a puzzle piece. Some of them are plugins, some of them are an API, some of them are adapters, some of them are the UI, some of them. And so anyway, I'm totally off track now. Nice. Hey, looks like you've gotten some good feedback on these first 3 unit tests. Thanks for making sure that we have unit tests as we go to take this environments command. Have we promoted it out of experimental, or is it still under the EXP, the experimental area?
It's still under the EXP, experimental.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's a subject that we should also talk about while we're digressing, and that is that and this is something that I'm hoping Matthew will start to do, and if Husseina has time, she might lean into this as well. And that is that there's on every single GitHub issue that's opened for Meshery CTL, there's a link to a spreadsheet for tracking the status of Meshery CTL commands. So, and it's not really it's the status, sure, but it also just lays out, here's all the commands and subcommands and flags and their purpose, and if they've been tested on these OSs, and like it's a sheet where we do planning for when a particular command should be promoted out of experimental or not, or like what upcoming commands are being planned for as well. So there's some surface area in Meshery server that has yet to be covered by Meshery CTL. So there's things that you can do maybe with the Meshery UI with that client, and maybe that you can't do yet with Meshery CTL. with that client. So I'm hoping that that discussion becomes a fairly sort of a standing agenda item. Just a quick look at that spreadsheet from meeting to meeting. I'll link to it in the Zoom chat so people can familiarize. And if Husseina or Matthew doesn't do it on a standing basis, then for my part, I'll seek out someone else to do it. If you guys would like to, so. Good work, Pranjal. Anybody have thoughts or questions before we move on?
So Pranjal, there are some recent comments from Matthew, so you might want to take a look. All right.
I might have missed it.
Yeah, so you can take a look, later.
Yes.
So thanks for your updates. Next up, we have this item from Ian.
Vivek, sorry for interrupting. Can I just ask one thing?
Yeah, please go ahead. Sure.
So writing these tests were basically a great way to understand more about the command line. Can we, if there's space, can we create more issues on writing these tests? I would like to take them on.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if this is also in a helpful to project, I'll definitely ask other maintainers and we'll make sure that we have some items open on it.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Pranjal. So next update was from Ian, but they had to drop early. So this is what basically is the change. And so this kind of advises the contributor to upload a screenshot when they are making UI changes. So I'll be dropping this PR in chat if you have any feedback, or if you want to give any session, you can do that in the PR thread. Let me also ask for any feedback since Ian has specifically asked for it. Does anyone have any thoughts? We'll wait for 5 seconds. All right, let's take this item from Jerens on E2E tests. So Jerens, are you all set?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. So currently I'm working with relationship test case in end-to-end test. So basically we have like several test case. For example, like we have like age, sibling, hierarchical, and labels relationship. Yeah, we have like 8 core. One of them is like here, hierarchical, parent inventory, parent wallet, sibling, match label. Get binding if you want to see the type, you can check here. So now we have like all of them 8 covered for wallet. That's like I can drop it directly, but either I refactoring it or waiting for the fix for the because it can initiate in the first time. But all of them is already stable now, so it's working. We have like network mount permission, firewall, annotation, sibling, inventory, parent wallet. So basically what it does is it's will like dropping some element to the canvas and then it will doing the check on array what are relationship available. There are also like some problem we encounter like when the, for example, inventory relationship, it will give you like this one inventory. So sometimes it get interrupted with the test being made, so I need to write like the relationship, the inventory relationship already available, and then doing the command. So it should be more stable now for the relationship. And any feedback around?
Me, I've got a feedback. Like it or not, I have feedback. Jaren's, this is significant. This is really helpful to the project overall. One of the one of the special ingredients inside of Meshery is this sense that users get as to Meshery's level of intelligence, its understanding of the elements that it's managing, those entities that it's managing, how those entities, like a pod, a Kubernetes pod maybe, relates to any other managed entity, maybe like a Kubernetes service, and in what form they relate, and specifically how configuration of one affects the configuration of the other. So you having written tests over these, really helpful. There's a couple of vectors from which to perform these tests. So Chris Carrier, I don't think he's able to join today. He was on the call last week, and this week he landed a pull request that talks about how to perform tests of these relationships. Now, the perspective from which he wrote his pull request, maybe I'll try to bring it up and share it with folks. I think it's merged, and then we'll come right back to the perspective from which you're testing. Yeah, if I would click share, that would be helpful. So, darn you, Zoom, get out of my way. If you go to Meshery docs, we're out here. So one of the ways in which you can test relationships, or that Chris was just documenting that you can test relationships, is using OPA CLI, or the Open Policy Agent CLI. So I believe if we look under the section on contributing, is that a little weird? Is that supposed to happen? Did I just jump to the wrong page? Anyway, if you go to contributing, and I guess it makes sense, I clicked on contributing, it takes me to it. Anyway, if you go to relationships, I think he ended up, no, I'm sorry. He worked on this page here, policies. So there are relationships that get evaluated for how different components interact or affect one another. The way that Meshery evaluates whether or not a Kubernetes pod should talk to a Kubernetes service, well, that is controlled through a policy. So relationships are statically defined inside of Meshery models. These relationships, inside of a relationship, you might say a Kubernetes pod can talk to a Kubernetes service. And there would be a little bit of an expression about how it can talk. This is a terrible description. But so that's just a static description that ships with Meshery inside of Meshery models. For each integration of the 300 or so that Meshery has, they might ship with different static definitions, relationship definitions, on how different components interact with one another. Boy, I'm really going through and explaining this. And for Meshery server, while it's running, to then take a look at a design and say, oh, there's a few components in this design. How do these, or do these components relate to one another? It will look at those relationship definitions and see if a relationship is feasible. In order for Meshery server to actually evaluate the design and make a determination as to, like, yes, the fact that there should be a line, or there should be an edge relationship between two components in this example, well, there are policies defined that evaluate Meshery designs. The policies are written in Rego, which is the language used by the Open Policy Agent, by the OPA project. So if one vector from which to test these relationships is to use OPA on the command line, and you're really, if you're doing that, you're really focusing on whether or not the rego, you're sort of testing the rego that we as a group of contributors have written for Meshery. Okay, great. Going back to Jaren's tests and what he was just showing is he's saying, well, that's one place to test to see how relationships work and whether or not the policies in Rego is written well and if they evaluate correctly. Jaren's is looking at it from a different perspective. He's saying, hey, inside of this canvas extension that visualizes designs, did not only the relationship get expressed or evaluated correctly with like now there is a line between these two components, but he's also testing, is it visualized properly? Is in fact there a line between these two? Does it have the right metadata? Does it have the port and protocol, or does it have the right arrowhead or like the right styling or what have you? So the tests that he's writing, he's written like 8 or 9 of these tests that verify those different relationship types. So super important because it's a special sauce of the project and et cetera. And there's different vectors from which to, like unit tests and feature tests or function tests and integration tests. End-to-end tests is where Jaren's has been focused, and he's really uplifted the project's end-to-end testing framework actually. So we've switched off of Cypress. If you were here a while ago, we're on to Playwright. And more than just Playwright, there's a bit of a framework around ensuring that pull requests that are made show up with end-to-end test comments and details of how those tests ran. So this is, Jaren's, just like anything that we do here, it isn't a single person effort. It's not that just Jaren's did this, but it's his shoulders that much of this has relied on. And so what he's highlighting today is that it's not just these tests, but there's a suite of additional tests that focus on verifying end to end, did these relationships evaluate well? It's super important. Those policies written in Rego can be between how those evaluate and how the visual expression gets done. There's all kinds of room for error. And so I'm not sure what else I was going to say, but do people have questions on what I was just talking about or feedback on how Jaren's is working on this? While you think about it, what Jaren's was, I think, actually more like pointing out is he was saying, hey, we've got these 8 or 9 different tests. These tests use some of Awani Alero's contributions, where she has created and published like 9 different designs into the Meshery catalog, each one showing off different relationships. I think if you pull up the catalog, you'll see some of her work here. So if we can embarrass her one more time, there's Awani, who was just sick the last couple of days, so she's feeling better. What Jaren's is saying is, sure, now we have a test to verify that this sort of relationship renders properly. This particular type of relationship is this one, a tag set. Or that's what we call this bubble, this amoeba-looking thing. And what Jaren's is saying is, actually, it's not, you're making it sound simple, and it's not quite that simple. Like, what happens is, there's a moment in time in which you might take a particular component, like maybe a job. Like maybe a pod, and you place it, and I dropped it, and it's visualized. Great, it's done. Well, or maybe it's done, or maybe here the backend in Meshery server might evaluate this design and identify the fact that this is a namespace component, and that part of representatives, and that this component should have a relationship to a namespace. So Meshery would do that evaluation and add a namespace automatically to the design. Consequently, sort of messing with the tests that Jarens is writing. So he's sort of highlighting that, like, yeah, there's some timing issues as we go to do end-to-end tests. Now, does anybody have questions or comments? Here's the namespace. I believe that we have a bug at the, so to kind of demonstrate this, if you as a user want to shoot yourself in the foot and take this component that resides inside of the namespace called the default namespace. I realize that's a little small, sorry. The default namespace, if you grab it and move it out of the namespace and place it over here, well, Meshery is going to say, I don't think so. It's going to put it back inside the namespace. You can try to do it real fast. And for a moment, a brief moment, you have some freedom, and then it takes it back. And that's because of the relationships that are evaluating continuously. Anytime that you make a change to a design, the design gets sent to the Pranjal. You were asking about the evaluation API. The design immediately gets sent to the evaluation API, which runs those tests and comes back and puts it in. Okay. Thoughts and questions and stuff? Jarens,
Thank you.
Jarens, was that it? Did we capture everything that you were trying to highlight?
No, it's not.
Nice. Okay. Great.
Thank you, Lee. Next up, we have Ankita's item on dashboard and call for volunteers. So, Ankita, can you please go next?
Sure. There was this PR that I made the past week on the dashboard page on migrating it, but there was a bug in here where we couldn't have this scrolling thing working when we minimized the screen. So this bug has been fixed, and we had an issue with how this looked in dark theme mode. So if you click on preferences, select dark theme now, get back. This currently supports the dark theming as well. So that was about the dashboard page migration. I'll pause for a bit if we have any questions regarding this. And I believe not. So I'll quickly make a call for volunteers. So we are starting out a new initiative where we are reaching out to contributors who can be relatively new to Meshery and who can be relatively new to development as well, without any prior coding experience. You could take up a couple of issues that we have opened on Meshery/Meshery under the template section, where we want users to, we want contributors to come and help us create a couple of design templates. So to say, design templates that look like this, that would help others who would come onto this application in the near future to explore the possibilities, the ways they could use Meshery, how could they do what they want to do. Let's say if someone wants to come up and create a bubble map, a double bubble map, how would they do it? So that is the basic ask for a couple of issues that we have opened. And all that we want the contributors to do is have a brief intro, give them a template that they can directly copy and paste, and then share steps on how they could recreate the very same template with annotations in and around. So that would be it. I will add a link to this in the comment section so that individuals who are interested in this call could go up and ask to be assigned to this issue, and we'd be really looking forward to the new designs that they create on the template. So that's all that I had to share. Any questions that we might have? I believe not. So that would be all from my end for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita. So of all the items that Ankita was just mentioning, you also can go through them through the link that is in here, and I'll also be dropping that in chat. So thank you, Ankita. Next up, we have Yash. So Yash, do you mind giving your update?
Yeah, so I don't have currently date to share right now with the PR, but yeah, I found the issue because when you run a performance test in the Meshery local provider, server is getting crashed because of nil check. And yeah, I will raise a PR after the call and I will fix it.
Thank you, Yash. So Abid, do you mind sounding off on these items? Or did you already do
Yeah.
it?
I think we got missed out previously. So yeah. Yeah, I have a call for volunteers for one of the extensions that actually Lee was already showing, the canvas extension that we have, which is like this infinite canvas that we use to design your infrastructure and manage it. So there are some of the issues that you might be able to help on there. So as you can see, like there is need for the canvas is created using React, and so the need of like React engineers. If you are proficient with React, you can really help in there. And also we are trying to tackle some of the responsiveness issues. So if your CSS is really good and you have a good hold on CSS, you can really help with removing some of the technical debt that were built for responsiveness. So we can move from using JavaScript to do responsive design and move towards using modern CSS to do that. So if you are comfortable with CSS, you can really help in there and make the product better. And also another place where if you are experienced with TypeScript, you can really help. We are migrating from JavaScript to TypeScript, and so most of the migration is partly done. So there are some still areas that still need to migrate to TypeScript. So if you are comfortable with TypeScript, you can directly start working on that. And it's currently like if you are mildly proficient with it, you can really able to make your work scene there. And also there is we are also using RTK for the caching layer of API. So using it for the data fetching and also caching. So there are some areas where we still need help and we need to finish off the migration. And it's both in Meshery and in that extension because we use the functionality from Meshery and it enhances on it. So you can help on that and you can maybe start from Meshery and also work on that extension. So if you are comfortable with any of these areas or multiple from these, you can tag me on Slack in the public channel so we can see. Yeah, if you are comfortable with Mesh, you can also like you would be easily able to work on this because we use functionality from Mesh, so it's good.
Thank you, Abid. So
Yeah,
yes,
that's mostly.
Yep. So just like I would say, if you are if you're interested and are comfortable with any one or many of these, you can sound off in Slack channels. All right. So then we have this item from Alero on fixed label duplicates. So do you want to go next?
Yeah. Let me share my screen. Okay. So there was this issue. Okay, so there was this issue on the match labels getting duplicated. So I went through the Rego policies yesterday, and then I was able to find a solution for it. But then I realized that there are some cases that are still not being covered. So for example, this works now, but if you add a new label to the component, it the relationship gets deleted because it's only checking based on one label. So there needs to be improvement on the code based on that. So I think one thing I'm going to do is one thing I'm going to do is go through the relationships and open a ClickUp task for all the cases, all the edge cases that need to be covered in the policy definition. So, but this works now. And then something else I did was just for the layer 5 docs, I just changed the embedded design to a different design. So I changed it to this Dapper design. So that's all for me. That's all for me. Yeah.
That's great. That's good. No issue with the embedding then. It seems to work all right.
There's still an issue. I had to use an old file.
You had to use an old design file
Yeah.
because the new one would not embed properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I opened up an issue for it, but I've not been able to crack it yet.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you, Vani, and thank you, Lee. So it looks like we are on time. And so thank you, everyone, for participating and sharing your updates.
Yeah, hey, sorry, but as we go to wrap up, just and we talk about announcements and things that are next. Nishant Singh is on the call, I think.
Yes, sir, I'm on the call.
Nice, yeah. Do you have a share for us today?
Yes, sir. A very good evening, all of you. So today, I will be telling you about the speakers and also the sessions that will be conducted by them. The speakers are Leo, Nick, Zach, and Shivai. Along with this, they will be conducting sessions at KubeCon from 11th November to 16th of November. And they will be conducting 3 sessions there on the dates. And the dates are 12th of November, 12th November, and 14th November, along with this on another session too on 14th November itself. The first session will include visualizing Kubernetes resources and relationship with Meshery. The second session will be on cloud native computing foundation, intro and deep diving into it. And the third and the final session, it will be on 14th of November, which will be on Contrib Fest, which is a new festival of Meshery in which the newcomers will be asked to contribute more towards the Meshery repository. You can find all the details about this KubeCon festival in the community section of the Layer 5 project, and there is a card that has been made. And if you're going to click on the card, you will get the further information about all the sessions that will be conducted. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, thanks a bunch, Nishant. Nishant was just reviewing a PR where we were listing, each of these 3. So in Slack, he might end up a little bit later when that PR is merged and up. Might drop a link in case any of that's recorded, or in case you're going to be at KubeCon North America. So, or even if you're not, you can share it with friends, or you can just bring up the URL and sort of experience FOMO as you look it over. Anyway, thanks for helping get those published, Nishant. That was great. Good review.
Thank you, Nishant. And the link to the pull request is in chat, so just in case you are interested, you can take a look. So with that, thanks once again for everyone for joining and participating, sharing our updates. So I will be sharing a couple of things, and that is if you are a newcomer or if you want to take a look at various projects and the community that we have here, we will have a newcomers call tomorrow. That's a weekly meeting that happens every Thursday. You are all welcome to join that call. Or if you know someone who might be interested into contributing, you can also introduce this call to them. So this is linked to our community calendar. If you subscribe to it, it will send you all the updates. You can see in this that on Thursdays we have the newcomers call. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see you all. You will also see me as one of the co-host of that meeting. So yeah, so with that, we'll see you next Wednesday. Till then, bye.